Hi people, it's Archivist here, hope you're doing well, and today I have yet another Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel video for you, where we are continuing with the normal and rare rarity festival. I have to say, I really have enjoyed playing through this festival, perhaps even more so than the last one. In the Xyz festival, I was kind of lucky in that I had just started using a Galaxy Eyes deck, which just so happened to be absolutely perfect for that festival. But at the same time, it meant that I wasn't having a lot of variety when you compared just my regular duels to the Xyz ones. But here, even though I am using my Red Eyes deck, it is very different from my main one. And furthermore, I had kind of stopped using my Red Eyes deck. It was the deck I came into the game with, and it's what I made my original videos on. But at those higher leagues, it's just so hard to stay competitive. It has a hard time dealing with monsters with very high attack or just a very aggressive back row. But this has been a great opportunity to use it. I mean, obviously, I wish I could use Red Eyes Black Dragon itself. That's the title card of the Red Eyes archetype, of course. But it's just funny how well this deck works even without Red Eyes itself. There's so much synergy and support, and as long as you understand the importance of the Archfiend and its effect, you can do reasonably well. I was very surprised at just how competitive this deck can be, though that being said, it definitely isn't the most competitive. I do come across some of these very popular deck types. I think the Time Lord focus one in particular, that is a challenging one to beat. It seems to be focused around making you destroy yourself sometimes, like they'll spring trap cards where you take the damage you would have inflicted, halving your life points. And to get the Time Lords off the field, I sometimes just have to use Fang with Chain to grab them and attach them to a monster. But this is where I'm finding increased value in Gearfried the Red Eyes Iron Knight. So when you use Fang with Chain, you can grab an effect monster and attach it to Gearfried. But if it's like a 0 attack and 0 defense monster, that isn't ideal because you've had to weaken your own monster in order to grab it. But Gearfried, upon attaching, can then destroy the attached spell card, or in this case monster, in order to then destroy another spell trap on the field, which is quite handy. One game I had that was a bit bizarre was a self-destruction one. I thought this was kind of done with now because back in the Xyz festival at the beginning, it was almost a case of you were more likely to go up against a deck that was trying to destroy themselves before you were able to destroy them, because it made more sense to end the duel quickly and get a loss because you got 50 medals if you lost and then 100 if you won. So if you could just do 2 games quickly and lose, that would be the equivalent of 1 win, and because you were trying to lose so quickly, you could actually get medals faster doing it that way. But then to try and counter it, they made it so that if you lost, you still had 50, but if you won, you got 500. So it made way more sense to actually try. And as a result, in this festival, I've barely seen any self-destruction decks, but I did actually encounter one, and I just kind of wondered why you would choose to do it now, because it doesn't make a ton of sense. But I wasn't too annoyed. Like, I only thought it was an issue in the previous festival because it was more often than not you would get a self-destruction matchup, which got frustrating because at the end of the day I do want to play Yu-Gi-Oh! And also, just as on a side note, I was trying to get content for the channel, of course, and it's not that fun if everyone's destroying themselves. But this was just a one-off, so I just took it as a free 500 medal win. I definitely wish that the festivals would become more permanent. At the moment, they're around just for a brief period of time. You've got medals and resources you can get to incentivize to play, and that's all well and good and all. And I'm very glad they exist. I've really enjoyed the different style of play I found with this festival. But I know it's going to go away soon, and then I'm going to be back to the regular duel mode. And, you know, as fun as that can be, at the same time, it can feel a little bit samey because everyone knows the best decks now. Everyone knows it's very easy to get those decks as well. And particularly when you're at Platinum, it's just facing the same decks over and over again. And it's a bit of a yawn fest. I think variety is the spice of life, and it's a great thing for Yu-Gi-Oh! As well. Really enjoyable to just go up against different decks. I mean, I know it's not realistic to want a different deck every time. There are going to be popular types, but it's one of the reasons that when we have the rank reset, I'm actually quite happy because I start to see a little bit of variety, especially if I give it a day so that all the people who do have the competitive decks move back up to Platinum. But I don't know about anyone else, but I love those rank resets because I'm like, oh, might actually see some variety now. And so, returning to my point about the festivals, what would be my ideal situation is that the festival comes out, and then rather than going away, it becomes a permanent game mode added to Master Duel. Now, I appreciate that the medal structure can't always be there, so maybe what happens instead is that the game mode is left there permanently, and then the medals, like the incentives for, you know, playing and getting the rewards, that's what cycles out instead. I mean, there probably does need to be a bit of a cap. It would be a bit much to have like 20 game modes available, but I think having at least 10 different options for playing online would be quite good for that variety, and just knowing you're going to go against different kinds of duelists. I mean, if this game didn't have solo mode, it would feel so repetitive to me. So that's what I hope will happen at some point, is they decide that there's some worth in taking these festival formats, which I really think are awesome, making them more permanent, and then tying the cycling effect more to the resources that you would acquire normally from them. You might be concerned and think, wait, doesn't that split the player base? Doesn't it mean it's going to take longer, you know, to get into a game? But if you think about it, this game is playable on smartphones, PCs, consoles, all around the world. It's not going to take long, even if you had 10 game modes to get into a match. I think you'd barely see a realistic difference. I mean, right now, it is basically instant. The moment I start searching for a match, I'm almost immediately in one. So I think we can afford to take a slight delay for the sake of variety. And with that, we come to the end of the video. As always, people, thanks very much for watching, and see you next time.